Given f of x equaling absolute value of x if x is less than 2, negative x if x is between 2 and 9, and square root of x if x is greater than or equal to 9. This is what we call a piecewise function. So what this function is, this is actually three functions in one, in a sense. So what we're going to do is we're just going to graph it. So the first function is the absolute value function. So if I was just to graph that, it would look like this. And then it would also come out this way. But this function says here, it's the absolute value function if x is less than 2. So I go to where x is 2 is at, and that's here. And the function only goes up to 2, and it can't be 2. So we have to cut it off here, because to the left, as long as we're less than 2, it's going to be the square root function. Not square root function, but the absolute value function. So we'll have to cut this part of the graph off because that's greater than 2 there. And since it doesn't include the 2, because it just says less than, doesn't say equal to, we'll put a little circle there, an open circle, because that constitutes a whole, and it can't be that value, 2. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to graph the next function, and that next function is negative x. Okay, so let's get a different color here. So for this negative x, let's see what that graph looks like, negative x. So that's going to be this function right here where I run this way. But again, keep in mind here, that's only when x is between 2 and 9. So if you think about where 2 is at, 2 is here, and 9 is here. So it's going to be only until I'm there. And everywhere else, we got to cut it off. So this has to come out. We got to take that out because that's less than 2. And we have to be greater than or equal to 2. So we're going to have to take that piece out. And keep in mind, but at 2, this also says equal to. So this, where x is 2, we get negative 2 for this function here. And that's going to be down here. So now we're okay going the rest of the way out till 9. And this is 9 here, so keep that in mind. So we're going to keep it till that point. Now keep in mind here, at 9, it says less than 9. So it can't be 9. So again, we're going to have an open circle there. Now the next one says, hey, we're going from x greater than or equal to 9. So that's going to be the absolute value function. So where that's going to be is, I would actually have to plug that in the square root of 9. I would have to put the 9 here. That would be 3. So that's over here, and that's 1, 2, 3, so it's going to be here. And it's filled in because it says equal to, right down at the bottom. So now I'm going to have to add some more notches and extend my x-axis, so give me a second on that. So I also put the 2 and the 9 in there so we know where our breaks are at. And then from here on out, the square root function generally looks like this here. But we're not using any of that previous stuff, so we're just going to go after that. And at 16, if we did an XY table at 16, it would be 4. So it would be there. So this would go, I just kind of want to get some accuracy. Let me fix that a little. All right. And that would keep going. So that's our piecewise function there. So now we're going to work with part B here. And part B says we're going to find some stuff. So I'm just going to move this back over again so we can get started with our problems. All right, so let's take a look at this first one then. So f of negative 1. Now, this doesn't mean that I'm going to plug in -1 into all three of these functions. That's not what it means. It means I look where I'm supposed to, where it comes down to the conditions. And that's these conditions here. So where x is -1 is going to put me in this first condition. Because x is -1, that means it's less than 2. So that means I'm going to use the absolute value function. That's what that means. So I'm really looking at the absolute value of -1, which equals 1. So 1 would be my answer. Okay, so now let's take a look at number 2 here. And it says f of 2. So again, that's actually 2 there. So I'm going to look where my condition is met for that value of 2. And it would be this middle one. And the reason why is because this says x is greater than or equal to. So that means it could be 2. And it is. So therefore, I'm going to use that second function. So that's going to be negative, and then I put my 2 in for x. So it's going to be -2. Now, I know I didn't have to rewrite that, but I did. Okay, now for 16, or f of 16. So that means I'm going to use this one here, because that's where my 16 lies, where x is greater than or equal to 9. So I'll use that one. So that tells me I'm going to use that square root function for that. So square root of 16, and that equals 4. So those are my 3 answers for this problem. And there's the graph. Not too bad.